Hey everyone, this is Module 9, Lesson 10, and today we are going to talk about ideas and support. Today's reading focus is on the author's reasons and evidence. So we're going to look at what reasons and evidence the author uses to support their points. And our learning target today is I can explain how an author uses reasons and evidence to support their points in a text. The type of text that we are looking at today is called an argumentative text. In an argumentative text, the author is trying to persuade the reader to believe a certain opinion. So the author starts off with a claim, which is the position that the author is trying to get you to accept, and then they back up their claim with evidence. The evidence is usually facts and examples that the author gives to support their claim, and they use them to try to convince you, the reader, to agree with them. Features of argumentative text are that they appeal to emotion. So they try to make you feel strongly. They have vivid language. They address the reader directly, and they are usually a call to action. So they're trying to convince the reader to do something specific. The main idea in an argumentative text is called a claim. And the claim is what the author wants to prove to the audience. In order to make his or her point, the author will include reasons and arguments, and they put these reasons and arguments that support the claim right into the text so that while you're reading, it supports what they're trying to say. Authors always use strong reasons and arguments because if they include weaker reasons or arguments, the odds are that the reader isn't going to agree with them. So when the authors are trying to back up their arguments, they use facts as a way to convince the reader to agree with them. And a fact is something that can be proven to be true. So while you're reading and you're trying to find the facts that the author is giving you, look for things like numbers, photos, maps, or eyewitness reports. The facts are usually data that support what the author is trying to say. Be careful that you don't get caught up with the author's opinion, because an opinion is a personal belief and it cannot be proven true. So you want to make sure that you're not mistaking opinions for facts. So look for things like I believe, or I think, it's best to do this, it seems to, never do this, always, or probably. Those are signal words for opinion, and you want to stay away from opinions when you're trying to find evidence. While you're reading, you as the reader have to decide if the author is stating a fact or opinion, because they might be trying to inflict their opinion on you to influence your thinking. So you have to think to yourself, is what I'm reading a fact? And then if so, is it true? And does it add to the text in a way that makes you want to agree with the author's claim? As a reader, it's also helpful to identify the intended audience in an argumentative text. So this is who the author is trying to convince. The reasons or arguments that an author includes will sometimes depend on the type of audience that they're targeting. Because, for example, authors are going to include different arguments to convince a group of students than they would if they were trying to convince a group of adults the same thing. They're going to try to include reasons and evidence that appeal to whoever their audience is. So let's take a look at this excerpt from the text and see if we can find the author's claim and the evidence used to support it. Effects of e-waste pollution. Electronic waste, or e-waste, contains many toxic materials, but less than 15% of e-waste is recycled. That means most e-waste ends up in landfills or incinerators. When e-waste is buried or burned, the toxic materials can be released into the land, water, and air. E-waste contains a high amount of lead. If e-waste is not disposed of properly, lead can leach into people's water supplies. When people drink this water, it can damage their kidneys. It also damages their blood and their nervous systems. So for this text, we're going to try to first find the author's claim. And this author says that e-waste has a lot of toxic materials, but less than 15% is recycled. So this author's claim is that the toxic materials in e-waste are harmful to the environment. And the ideas and support that the author includes to back up this claim: first, the author says that most e-waste ends up in landfills or incinerators. And this allows the waste to be released into the land, water, and air. And then finally, the author says that high amounts of lead in e-waste can leak into water supplies. And when this happens, it can cause damage to people's kidneys, blood, and nervous systems when they drink the water. So as you continue reading today, you're going to think about who the author's intended audience is and then find evidence that supports your thinking. So why did you decide that this is the audience that the author is targeting? And you want to remember to look for facts that back up the author's claim and do not be influenced by the author's opinion. So be careful when you're picking out the reasons and evidence that you're not using the author's opinion. That is all for ideas and support. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon.